Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Notes and welcome to our third part of our crash course on Prisma. And today we will be dealing with our one-to-many relations. Okay, and if you guys are following the series, so you have seen that in the previous video we have covered our one-to-one relation with our referential actions as well. Okay, so for today's scenario, we will be dealing with one-to-many relation, and the scenario which we will be having is that user with our posts. Okay, so since we know that one user can have multiple posts and a lot of posts can refer back to a single user as well. Okay, so if you go from left to right, so you can see that obviously from left to right user can have many posts. Okay, but from our right to left, we know that a single post at a time will always belong to a single user. Okay, so there will not be such a scenario in which one post can belong to multiple users. Okay, so yeah, that's the overall scenario which we will be implementing in our code. So for simplicity, I've gone with the scenario in which we will be dealing with user and to-dos. Okay, so again, the concept remains same because one user can have multiple to-dos. Okay, and obviously the very first thing you do in is to create a to-do application. That's why I'm taking that scenario in which a user can have multiple to-dos. Okay, so let's go and implement the scenario. Okay, so if you come to our VS Code, I have already created my models here. You can see we are having a user model as well as our to-do model. Okay, and in our users model, we will be having first name, last name, age as our attributes, and ID, which is our primary key. And since it is a one-to-many relation in which a user can have many to-dos, so the only difference here is that you will be having a to-dos array right over here. So you can see that this square bracket is referring that there will be multiple to-dos against our single user. Okay, and if you focus on our one-to-one relation, in that case we were having only a single entity model object. Okay, right over here you can see, but in one-to-many case we will be having many, so that's why I'm marking it as an array. Okay, so yeah, that's our user model side. And if you go to our to-dos model, we will be having our primary key as well as title, description, and is completed, which will be a boolean. And by default, at the time of adding a to-do, we know that the default value will be false. Okay, and so that's why I've marked false right over here. And these two lines are obviously creating our relation back with our user model. So with that, we are having user ID, and this user ID attribute will be acting as a foreign key to this model ID of our user. Okay, and the attribute or the line which is telling this is this line right over here, which is saying that yeah, this to do is having a relation with our user, and the fields is this one user ID, which will be a foreign key, and this user ID will be referencing the ID of our user, and that will be this ID right over here. Okay, so that's the overall concept here. Okay, so if you save this thing, let me just cut it down and let me format it. Okay, so yeah, that's the formatting which comes by default with Prisma. So yeah, that's the overall concept of how you create a one-to-many relation. We have already done in one-to-one. The only difference here you can see that is that we are having an array. Okay, so that's the only difference. So that's why without wasting our time, I have already written this code. Okay, and one thing you have to keep in mind that in our one-to-many relation, we always keep the foreign key on our many side. So in our case, our many side is this to-do side. So that's why I've marked this relation here, because I want to keep the foreign key on our many side. Okay, so yeah, that's the scenario how you map a one-to-many relation. And if you save this thing, I've already applied the migrations in our schema, and the migrations look something like this. So we are having a table user, we are having a table of to-do, and at the end we are marking foreign key user ID in our to-dos table. Okay, so that's the overall concept of SQL, if you guys know that. Okay, so the same concept goes in our data grip. If I open my data grip here, you can see that if I refresh this thing, this is my to-dos table in which I'm having a user ID, which is again acting as a foreign key to our users table. And in our users table, we are having first name, last name, and age. Okay, so that's the overall scenario here. So let's go. Since I've already migrated, so let's start working with our Prisma client. Okay, so the first thing I will do is that obviously we'll go from our users to our to-do side. Okay, so let's say we will create a user with some to-dos. Okay, so let's let user equals to await, and let's say prisma dot create. Okay, not connect, but sorry, prisma dot user dot create. Okay, so let's create a user in which we will be having a data object. Inside that data object, we will pass our first name, something like, let's say, Afaq for now, and let's say last name is obviously Javed, and let's say age is 22. Okay, so the moment you define your users parameter, you can see that although we are having a to-dos here, okay, but that are optional by default. Okay, so you can, in one-to-many case, you can create a user without to-dos. Okay, so yeah, you can do that, although we have not marked it optional here, you can see, but still in one-to-many case you can create a user without to-dos. Okay, so yeah, in our case we want some to-dos against this user, so let's create some to-dos. So in to-dos, obviously we will be having the same our create object. So obviously, yeah, you can create, or you can have an option of create many. The only difference between two is that if you want to create many, so you have to use this object. So I will be creating many, so I will mark it over here, and inside this we will be having our data object, and this time the data object will be of type array, because we will be creating many to-dos against this user. Okay, so let's say I want to create a user with a title with something like maybe learn Prisma. Okay, and let's say the description, okay, let's keep the description as same. Okay, so that we want to learn Prisma. Okay, so obviously since we know that we are having title description, but yeah, obviously if you come to our schema, we are having this is complete attribute as well, but we don't need to pass that one. Okay, because we have already marked it as false in our schema. So yeah, by default it will always be false. So let's duplicate this thing, and let's say let's change it, let learn Node.js for now, and let's keep it same. Okay, Node.js. Okay, so yeah, let's save this thing, and now obviously type-ORM, sorry, not type-ORM, but Prisma is smart enough to know that yeah, we have to create a user with these to do. So it will automatically go and link these to dos with our this user object as well. Okay, so let's return back the created user to our client as well, and let's save this thing, and let's see that if our application is running. Yeah, you can see the application is running fine for now. So let's go to our schema, or not the schema, but let's go to our Thunder client. Okay, so if I open my Thunder client and let's hit the request. Okay, so yeah, something is wrong with that. So if I open my integrate terminal, you can see that something is going wrong here. Okay, unique constant failed on user ID. Okay, so let's see that what's wrong here. So let me just open my schema Prisma. Okay, yeah, I'm not having a unique constant over user ID. So let's just migrate for now. Okay, so maybe I was working previously, so that might be the issue. So npx Prisma migrate dev dash dash name, and let's say it's our init for now, init2. Okay, so let's create our migration with that name. Okay, so your database is sync now with our schema. So let's see what's the difference between both the migrations. Okay, so if I go to this migration, okay, yeah, we were having a unique index on our user key. So that's the reason which we have done in this migration. Okay, so I think for now, if I close everything and if I come back to my Thunder client, and let's see if our application is running fine. So let's start it in our development mode, and this time it should work. Okay, so server is started, and if I hit the request, yeah, now you can see that we are getting back the response. Okay, so yeah, we are getting our user with ID 3 and first name of Javed and age 22. Okay, so if you come back to our data grid, so here you can see that if I refresh this thing, we are having our two to-dos with ID 5 and 6, and these are referring to our user ID 3. Okay, and if you refresh this thing, you can see that we are having that user 3 Afaq Javed, which is having these two to-dos, which are further linked with this foreign key right over here. Okay, so that's the concept of one-to-many relation. Okay, sorry for that, guys. I think I was working with that first one, so in that case I was marking my user ID as a unique parameter, but do remember that in our case of one-to-many, this user ID cannot be unique, because yeah, there will be duplication of user ID. Okay, and you can see that right over here that this user ID is being duplicated, so you don't need to mark this user ID at the rate unique. Okay, so yeah, that's one scenario. So let's say we have created our to-dos, and let's say in a scenario, let's cut this thing from here and let's move it back to our at the end, and let's comment this out. Okay, so let's save this thing for now, and let's say I want to get the users with their respective to-dos, and that's obviously simple. So let's user is equal to await, and then we can use our Prisma dot user dot let's say find many, and inside this obviously I want to load the relation as well. So I will say that include our to-dos to true. Okay, so that's the overall concept here, and this will be our all users, and let's move it back to our client. Okay, so let's send it back to our client. Let's save this thing. Let's open our our terminal for now, and yeah, everything is working fine for now. And let's go to our Thunder client. Let's hit the request, and now you can see that in our response, if I make it a little bit more bigger, yeah, so we are having our user Fox with their respective to-dos right over here. Okay, so yeah, that's the way how you deal things from our user side. Okay, so yeah, let's now move change the scenario in which we will be going from our to-do side to our user side. Okay, so let's start the proceedings. Okay, so let's say for now let's cut this thing from here and let's move it at the end, and let's mark it something like this. Okay, okay, so let's say now we will be creating our to-do. So let's say let to-do equals to await, and let's say prisma dot let's say to-do, and let's say dot create. Okay, so not count but our create. Okay, so we will be creating a single to-do in which we will be having our title, and let's say this time my title is that learn JavaScript, and let's keep the description as same, that it's learn JavaScript. Okay, and obviously we don't need to pass this completed parameter because it will always be by default false. Yeah, but you can see that it is still complaining me, and the reason it is complaining me is because in your schema you have defined that there must be a relation with respect to user, and that relation is not optional. So every time you need to create a to do, you have to provide the user parameter as well. So let's say for now I want to create that with the user of let's say we're creating a single user, and for now let's say that user's first name is maybe Asad for now, and let's say the last name will be let's say Asad Javed for now. Okay, and the age is obviously 22. Okay, so now you can see that since we have provided our user's parameter, so it's not complaining. And let's send back this to do to our client as a response, and let's save this thing. And now obviously Prisma is smart enough to know that yeah, we need to create a to do as well as a user, and then we can link our user with that respective to do. Okay, so let's save this thing and let's open our Thunder client and let's send the request, and now you can see we are having another user with ID 7. Okay, so let's see in our data grid, if you refresh this thing you can see that we are having one more user of Asad Javed which is 22, and obviously this will be having a single to do. And if you refresh this thing you can see that we are having one more to do in which we are learning our JavaScript, and that is obviously being referenced with this foreign key to that respective user with ID 4. Okay, so that's the whole concept here. So yeah, that's one scenario of creating to-dos with our user. And obviously if somehow you want to mark this relation optional, you can do that. So let's make it question mark here and question mark here. So this will tell the Prisma schema that yeah, this to-do is having a relation with the user, but that relation is optional. Okay, and obviously whenever we make changes in our schema we migrate. So let's migrate this thing. So let's say npx migrate, sorry, not migrate, it's Prisma migrate, and let's say dev and dash name, let's say optional underscore user. Okay, so let's enter this thing and it will go and mark your this relation as an optional. We have a migration with that, and if you come and look at that migration you can see that we are doing something with our foreign key. Okay, maybe we are marking it as not null or as maybe null. Okay, so you can see that on delete it will set null, and it is also making it null here. Okay, so if you guys know obviously that what SQL do is, so you guys can easily understand that. Okay, and now the beauty of this is that obviously this time we can create a to do without providing the user attribute. So if you come to our Prisma client and if I just delete this user object, so yeah, now you can see that it is not complaining me. Okay, because we can create a to do without a user. So let's say this time it will be something maybe like learn Python. Okay, Python is a good language by the way. So let's say Python. Okay, so let's save this thing for now, and I think our application is up. Okay, so yeah, it's working fine for now. So let's hide the terminal, let's go to our Thunder client and let's hit the request, and you can see that yeah, we can create a to do with a title learn Python, description learn Python is completed false, and the user ID is obviously null because the relation is obviously optional. Okay, so if you come to a data grid and just refresh our to dos, you can see that we are having a single to do which is not again referring to a user in our users table. Okay, so that's the concept here. Okay, so yeah, that's I think how you deal with one-to-many relation in Prisma scenario with this schema which we have written. And now it's time to, I think, move back to our referential actions. Okay, so again, I've already discussed what referential actions are and how these things work in our previous part. Two or maybe three of our crash course in which we were dealing with one-to-one scenario. Okay, so yeah, let's start with cascade. Okay, so now let's say if I come to data grep and let's say that now this user which is having an id 3 and id of 4, these are being linked with these to dos right over here. So let's say if any developer comes and try to delete this user with id 3, so in that case what will happen to the to dos which are linked with this user id? Okay, so for that we have to define the on delete attribute with respect to their referential actions. So let's start with cascade. Okay, so for now if I come to my Prisma client, and not the Prisma client but our Prisma schema, and inside this user action we will be having one more attribute which is this on delete one. Okay, so let me just zoom it a little bit back so you guys can see it easily. So yeah, on delete we are having different options. Okay, we are having cascade, we are having no action, we are having restrict, set null, and set default. Okay, so let's try with cascade. And the moment you hover on cascade, you can see that it will delete the child records when the parent record is deleted, and that's obvious. So if you save this thing, so what this will do is, obviously if you delete this user, so it will also delete all their respective to dos which are linked with that user. Okay, so that's what this cascade mean. Okay, so let's migrate our schema, obviously because we have made our changes. So let's say we can say that let's mark it as cascade underscore uh, relation. Okay, okay, sorry for that cascade spelling, by the way. Again, this is just for demonstration purposes, but in professional work you have to keep your spellings right. Okay, so let's hide a terminal and let's move on to our migration. And if I open my last migration, you can see that in our on delete scenario we are marking it as cascade. Okay, so that's what we are doing. So let's close everything, and for now if I come to my Prisma client, and now let's try to delete our user with id 3. Okay, and let's see that what will happen. So for now let me just cut this thing down. Okay, let me just completely cut it and let's move it to the end of our file. So let's paste it over here and let's comment this thing. Okay, so yeah, now we can delete the user. So let's say let user deleted is equals to, let's await and user prisma dot user dot delete, and we will be deleting obviously where our id is equal to 3. Okay, so that's what we are providing here. If we are having object inside this, we are having a where object in which we are passing our id 3. Okay, and since we are talking about id 3, so we are trying to say that we are deleting this user of Javed age 22, which is further being linked with these to dos. Okay, learn Prisma and learn Node.js. Okay, since we are using cascade, so it will remove this user as well as these to dos as well. So yeah, let's pass it down back to our client as a response. Let's save this thing and let's open our Thunder client. Okay, so if I send this thing now, you can see that yeah, we are getting 200. Okay, and that user must have been deleted. So if you come back to our data grep and let's refresh our users, you can see that user number 3, which was having id 3, is gone. And since these two to dos are linked, learn Prisma and learn Node.js, if you refresh this thing, you can see that to dos are also gone from our table, which was linked with user id 3. Okay, so yeah, that's the concept here. So since we have tried our referential action of cascade, so let's try with restrict. Okay, now restrict simply means that it will not allow you to delete that user because it is already linked to the respective to do. So for that, obviously if I come over here and if I mark this thing maybe with our the scenario of restrict, let's save this thing and let's migrate our schema. And this time I will say that it is a restrict relation, so restrict restrict relation. Okay, and let's migrate our schema. And yeah, everything looks fine for now. And if you go to our last migration, and we are obviously saying that on delete you have to restrict it. Okay, so yeah, that's what we are doing. And obviously now if I come to here and let's first go to our data grep and let's say that this id 4 this user with id 4 is being linked with this to do. Okay, which is learn JS. Okay, so if I try to delete this one, so Prisma will not allow me to do that. Okay, so if I come over here and now I want to delete the user with id 4, let's save this thing and let's open our application. Okay, everything is working fine for now. Let's go to our Thunder client. Let's head the request, and yeah, that's a error which is as expected. And yeah, obviously it is saying that it is referring our foreign key. That to do user ID has a foreign key which is referring to our obviously user stable, and that's the reason that it is not trying to let you delete that record. Okay, so yeah, that's what restrict do. And obviously if you come back to my Obsidian, you're having one more attribute of set null, which will mark the relation as null. Okay, now no action simply means that there will not be any action done by our Prisma side, but we normally don't use this scenario. Okay, we always go with these. We either cascade, we either restrict, or we either mark it as null. Okay, so let's go with set null option. Okay, so if I come to my Prisma and let's say we mark it as set null. Okay, let's save this thing for now. And since we have made the changes, so let's migrate, and now we can say that instead of restrict, we will go with our null relation. Okay, so let's wait our database to be migrated. So it's migrated, and if you come over here, you can see that now in our on delete case, we are setting this to set null. Okay, so yeah, so since now it's null, so if you try to delete this thing with our ID4, now what it will do is it will go to your database, it will delete this user, and since this user is being linked with this to do, so it will go and mark the user ID to null, that yeah, this to do is not being linked with any user, so it will mark null over here. So let's try that out. Okay, so let's go to our client and let's hit the request. Everything is working fine for now. And if you come to our data grip and let's refresh our users, our user is gone, which was having with ID4. And now since this was linked with that ID4, if you refresh this table, you will get null over here, that yeah, this to do is not pointing to any specific user. Okay. Okay, so yeah, that's the overall concept of how you deal with one-to-many relation, with especially in context with of this referential actions. Okay, so before going further, I think the last step is obviously our many-to-many relation, and I think we will be covering this in our part 4 or part 5 of our crash course series. Okay, so that's it for now. Before going further, I just want to tell you that we are having one more extra attribute in our schema, and that is obviously this on update. Okay, now on update, we are having the same attributes. Okay, we are having cascade, no action, restrict, set default, and set null. Okay, so these concepts are same as we were doing with on delete scenario, but this will be applied on updates scenario. Okay, so let's say if you want to update the user which is being linked with this perspective to do, so what will happen to this to do. Okay, so that's what you can do in on update scenario. Okay, so you can further also read it on the documentation. The reason I'm not covering it is because again it will be having the same options which are being applied to this on delete scenario. Okay, the only difference will be that this will be applied on delete, and that option will be applied on update. Okay, so that's the overall concept here. So I think that's it for now. I hope you liked the video. If you're liking my content, so do like and subscribe the channel. And a lot of you guys were requesting me for my Discord channel, so I've also created my Discord channel, and the link to that channel will be in the description as well. Okay, so that's it for now. Thanks for watching.